If you feel like no matter how hard you work, your financial life still feels fragile, you're not alone. Most people focus on income, budgeting, or saving more, but there's a silent force quietly eroding financial stability for millions: the debt trap. This isn't just about owing money. It's about how debt becomes a cycle that pulls people deeper into financial stress, often without them realizing they're in it until it's too late. A debt trap happens when borrowing stops being a temporary tool and becomes a structural cycle that takes over your financial life. It's when debt payments eat up so much of your income that you can't get ahead, so you borrow more, just to keep up. Eventually, debt becomes less of a choice and more of a burden that dictates your financial decisions. A debt trap isn't simply having loans. Anyone can borrow money for a house, education, or a car. The trap starts when the cost of repaying debt, interest, fees, penalties begins to outpace your ability to pay it down, forcing you to take on new debt to cover old obligations. That creates a vicious cycle. You borrow to pay the minimum on existing loans, but interest keeps accumulating, and the cycle continues. This is more than a definition. It's a financial dynamic where the debt itself becomes a barrier to financial freedom, not a tool for growth. In the United States and many developed economies, household debt has ballooned to unprecedented levels. Americans collectively carry trillions of dollars in consumer debt, including credit cards, auto loans, personal loans, and student loans. Even when you earn a decent income, debt can make you feel financially insecure. That's because debt payments, especially high-interest ones, take money out of your hands before you can decide how to use it. And for many people, that means living paycheck to paycheck even when they work full-time. One of the most insidious aspects of debt is minimum payments, the lowest amount lenders allow you to pay each month. On the surface, minimum payments seem manageable. They're low, they keep you current, and they prevent penalties. But here's the trap. Paying only the minimum often means you're barely covering interest, not reducing the principal. That keeps your debt balance high for years or even decades, and you end up paying far more in interest than you originally borrowed. Minimum payments are like a treadmill. They keep you moving, but you never get anywhere. And because they feel affordable, many people stick with them unaware of how much they're actually costing over time. Debt isn't just a financial issue, it's a psychological one too. When debt payments consume a large portion of your income, it creates stress, anxiety, and a constant feeling of being behind. You start to measure your financial health not by your savings or investments, but by how barely you make it each month. That stress affects decision-making. People in debt often avoid checking their balances, delay financial planning, or make short-term decisions that feel good in the moment but worsen their long-term financial health. It becomes a cycle of reactive decisions rather than strategic ones. In essence, debt doesn't just take money, it takes peace of mind. Interest is the engine that powers the debt trap. This is especially true for unsecured debt like credit cards, where interest rates can be astronomical. The structure of these loans means that early payments mostly go toward interest, not principal, keeping borrowers in debt longer. In many cases, debt isn't taken on for emergencies or investment, it's taken on to maintain a lifestyle. Easy access to credit cards, personal loans, and buy now pay later plans makes borrowing feel normal. But when spending becomes financed rather than earned, debt shifts from a tool to a crutch. Many people don't realize how much debt shapes their financial behavior until they try to escape it. And because debt payments often become a fixed part of monthly expenses, they squeeze out savings, investments, and financial flexibility. One of the most dangerous aspects of debt traps is compounding debt when you borrow to pay off other debt. For example, someone might take a personal loan to cover credit card balances, but the new loan comes with its own interest. Or a borrower might use a payday loan to cover an emergency, only to take another loan to pay off the first one. This is exactly how debt traps escalate. You borrow to pay debt, and the total owed keeps growing. Once you're in this cycle, escaping becomes extremely difficult without major financial changes or external help. Student loans are one of the largest sources of debt for young adults. Unlike credit cards, student loans are often taken out with the expectation of future earnings. But when wages stagnate and living costs rise, many graduates find themselves unable to pay down their student debt while also covering rent, transportation, and other expenses. Because student loans often don't go into default easily, they can remain on a person's financial record for years, limiting financial flexibility and delaying major life decisions like buying a home or starting a family. The modern financial system, from credit card companies to lenders, benefits from debt. Interest, fees, and penalties are profit mechanisms. And because credit is widely accessible, many people take on more than they can handle. This isn't accidental. Easy credit is marketed as empowerment, the ability to buy now and pay later. But without financial education and discipline, this empowerment quickly turns into dependency. Beyond the numbers, debt has a profound emotional impact. People in debt often report feelings of shame, anxiety, and helplessness. They may avoid social situations, delay life goals, or feel trapped in jobs they dislike simply to make payments. Debt doesn't just take money, it takes confidence, autonomy, and peace of mind. To understand why the debt trap is so powerful, it helps to break down its common causes. High interest rates. These keep balances high and repayments slow. Minimum payments. These make debt feel manageable while prolonging repayment. Borrowing to pay other debt. This creates a compounding cycle. Lifestyle borrowing. Using credit for non-essentials increases debt load. Insufficient income. When income doesn't cover expenses plus debt payments, these factors don't act alone, they reinforce each other, making debt harder to escape. Debt traps don't just affect individuals, they affect entire economies. When large numbers of people are stuck in debt cycles, consumer spending shifts away from investment and saving. People spend more on interest payments and less on buying homes, starting businesses, or investing in education. This slows economic growth and reduces overall financial resilience. Online communities are filled with stories of people caught in debt cycles, sometimes through unexpected life events like medical emergencies, job loss, or personal relationships that led to financial strain. These narratives often show how debt doesn't discriminate. These stories highlight something important. Debt isn't just about numbers. It's about real lives, real stress, and real consequences. The rise of digital finance, from credit apps to buy now pay later services, has increased access to credit. Easy access to credit can feel like freedom until it becomes a burden. Despite its prevalence, the debt trap is rarely discussed in depth. Most financial advice focuses on budgeting, investing, or earning more, not on the structural dynamics of debt itself. Yet debt is often the reason those other strategies feel impossible. The debt trap thrives in silence. People don't talk about it because it's uncomfortable, stressful, and deeply personal. But the more we understand it, the better we can protect ourselves and others. Escaping a debt trap isn't easy, but it is possible. It requires understanding interest and compounding, paying more than minimum payments, prioritizing high-interest debt first, avoiding new debt while paying down old debt, seeking professional advice when needed. It also requires emotional resilience, facing the reality of debt rather than avoiding it. If this changed the way you think about money and debt, subscribe now, because we go deeper into the systems, habits, and hidden traps shaping your financial future. Stay informed, stay aware, and take back control.